योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः हरिः ओम। So we've seen the first two sutras of the second chapter, Sadhanapad. So the first one, Kriya Yoga, was defined as Tapasvadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. In the second one, we looked at the Prayojanam. What does that accomplish, right? So Kriya Yoga accomplishes Kriya Yoga was described as Samadhi Bhavanarthaha Klesha Tarukaranarthahascha. Okay. So we saw both of these and we went into quite some detail on what is Kriya Yoga. Now we'll move on to the third sutra. Here we begin an exploration into kleshas. What is this? So we saw klesha tanukaranarthaha kriya yoga. Why is that so important? What are these kleshas? And so on. And that we'll see starting with the third sutra. And it will go on for a sort of a sequence of multiple sutras where first we look at kleshas as a whole. Then we look at all the kleshas one by one, what they mean. So to begin with, at the beginning of the third sutra, Vyasa introduces it by asking the following questions. Atha kete kleshaha. So you say, okay, so what are these kleshas? Right? Because we saw klesha tanukaranarthaha. Okay, so there is something called klesha. Klesha has this meaning in Sanskrit that says sort of trouble or difficulties and so on. So what are these? Kiyantova iti. So, or how many are these? Right? So what is this? What are these kleshas? How many are these? Then comes the sutra where that question is answered in a very terse manner. The sutra number 3, it says, Avidya smita raga dvesha abhiniveshaha pancha kleshaha. Okay, so the kleshas are 5. So it's a 5-fold thing that we are talking about with kleshas. The first word is a compound word. It is called itaretar dvandva samasaha. So if you split it, it says avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. So these are the 5. These are the 5 kleshas. Now we won't be going into the meaning of each of these. That will come later. Okay? Now at this point, it is to be understood that there are these 5. So the meaning is pretty clear. These are the names and these are the 5 kleshas. And generally in Sankhya Yoga, you will see these things very carefully enumerated in a finite set. So anything, it won't say something, something, etc. Okay, it will have exactly these 5, right? Vritti is exactly 5. Later on we'll say avidya chatushpada, exactly 4-fold. So they are very precise in terms of not leaving any vagueness and putting an etc. at the end. So there are exactly these 5 kleshas. Now Vyasa says, klesha iti pancha viparyayaha ityarthaha. So now this gets very interesting from this point onwards. We'll look at Vyasa Bhashya and then we'll have a little more discussion from other texts. So in the beginning, in the first line itself, Vyasa is saying kleshaha iti. Okay? Pancha viparyayaha ityarthaha. So the kleshas are nothing but 5 viparyayas. Okay? So viparyaya is something we have already seen at the very beginning of the first chapter as one of the 5 vrittis. Right? Pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smriteha. Right? Those were the 5 vrittis. So the second one dealt with there was viparyaya. And these kleshas are nothing but, pancha means 5, pancha viparyayaha. So klesha is nothing but sort of an unfoldment of viparyaya. Right? So in some sense, it is not a new concept, but in some other sense it is a new concept, and we'll see how. So right in the beginning, Vyasa clarifies that these kleshas are nothing but fivefold viparyayas. So what do? Te spandamanaha gunadikaram dradayanti. Okay, so when they are active, right? So syandamana or spandamana means they are sort of vibrating, they are active, they are doing whatever they do. When they do that, gunadikaram dradayanti. So the adhikara or the power, the authority, right? So the activity, the influence of the gunas. Gunas are sort of the sattva, raja, tama gunas are the fundamental fabric of Prakriti. Right? So all of Prakriti is made up of sattva, raja, tama. Their adhikara. So what is, see, everything is evolved from Prakriti. What is other than the Prakriti is Purusha. Right? And Prakriti is constituted of sattva, raja, tama. So when it says the gunadikaram dradayanti, it means the power of the gunas on the chitta, the sharira, on all of those is being increased, solidified, established by these kleshas. Okay, so that is what they do. Te syandamanaha gunadikaram dradayanti. They make it stronger and they make it solidified. The kleshas make the power of the guna stronger. Okay. Parinamam avasthapayanti. What is parinamam? Parinamam means change and transformation. Okay. The Purusha, the Chiti Shakti is unchanging. It is eternally unchanging, right? It is completely constant. The Prakriti is ever changing. So this nature of change is called parinamam. So parinamam avasthapayanti. So they establish this whole cycle of changes. That again happens because of the kleshas. Karya karana srotaha unnamayanti. Okay. So karya karana. So in sort of a nutshell, it is this whole thing of cause and effect. Right? This whole cycle of cause and effect, which is another cause for another effect. So this whole prapancha, this whole samsara of all the activities, all the changes, all the cause and effect that we are seeing, that the kleshas bring about. Okay, karya karana srotam, this whole thread, this whole flow of cause and effect, they bring about. Paraspaраನುಗ್ರಹ tantri bhuya karma vipakam cha abhinirharanti iti. Okay, so paraspaраನುಗ್ರಹ tantri bhuya, which means these five kleshas, parasparam is mutual. Paraspaраನುಗ್ರಹ, so mutually they are sort of in some sense helping each other, right? So one kind of klesha brings about another kind of klesha, which again brings about a third kind of klesha, which again brings about a first kind of. So the sort of the attachment brings hatred on some other object, which again brings greater ahankara and so on. So all these kleshas is sort of build upon each other. So that is a paraspaраನುಗ್ರಹ. Okay. So paraspaраನುಗ್ರಹ tantri bhuya. So through this mechanism of each of these kleshas, in some sense assisting the other kleshas and making the other one powerful, which again makes the first one powerful and so on. These kleshas, they keep on building upon each other. From a journey towards kaivalya or moksha or a yogic journey, all these are problematic things. Right? Why? So the gunadikaram is a problem. Because as we have seen in the first chapter, the chitta firstly wants to have vivekakhyati. It wants to the vritti nirodha in the terms of raja and tama vrittis have to go away. The sattvika vritti has to be stronger. That brings the samprajnata samadhi and vivekakhyati. Beyond that, even that has to go away. Then asamprajnata samadhi and then kaivalya. Right? So the action of gunas is contrary to the destination and the journey where yoga wants to lead one. Right? So the gunadikaram dradayanti is a problem. Parinamam avasthapayanti is in the nature of jnana. So the Yoga Sutra and the Bhashya are giving us more jnana about how this world works. So this whole thing about changes, the cause and effect is all as a result of kleshas. That is what is being said. And the kleshas are such that they assist each other and help each other, which means every klesha is a problem. So you cannot say, okay, I will resist the 4 kleshas but keep one. that won't work, because the one klesha is going to bring about another, and each and everything has to be sort of overcome. So that is what is being detailed here. And then it says, interestingly, karma vipakam cha abhinirharanti. So what is karma vipakam? Vipaka is fruition, bringing about the fruit. Fruit of what? Fruit of every karma. Right? So as we have seen, each and every action, as per the karma siddhanta, each and every karma brings about fruition. When does the fruition happen is a very sort of a mysterious area that we don't get into here. In fact, it has been acknowledged in the Shastras and Bhagavad Gita and so on, as it is difficult to understand and mysterious, the exact thing of when the fruition happens. But the fact that a karma brings about its fruition is well known. And how does that happen is karma vipakam abhinirharanti. Abhinirharanti means nishpadayanti, they bring about. Okay? So they bring about the fruition of karmas. So this whole cause and effect, karma and fruition, the fruition is supposed to, we'll see later, jati ayu bhoga. So where is the birth? How long is the lifespan? What are the life experiences? Everything is colored by karma that has been done before. So this whole influence of karma and the fruition is coming because of the kleshas. Okay? And hence, here the emphasis of the sutra is to tell what are these kleshas. The emphasis of the bhashya is to give establish what is the role of the kleshas and what is the importance and why do we have to learn about them, and therefore establish why the klesha tanukaranam, which is the prayojana of the kriya yoga, why is that important, right? So this is all coming in terms of jnana, to understand not only the purusha and chitta and so on, but also to understand how this world is operating. And we'll see a little more about this soon after.
So, we have embarked upon the topic of kleshas. Now, kleshas literally would mean afflictions. So, it can be easily understood that the kleshas are not desirable, because nobody considers afflictions as desirable. Is that right? Nobody says, I want to have afflictions, more and more afflictions. So kleshas are literally afflictions. But there is difference between psychological afflictions and metapsychological afflictions. Psychological afflictions means we will feel, it will be sensing the displeasure, you will be sensing the unpleasant experience, you will be sensing the pain, sorrow. So what we can be sensing as sorrow or agitation or irritation or affliction is psychological affliction. The reference here is not to psychological afflictions. The reference here is to metapsychological afflictions. That means these afflictions are relishable to us as well. We sometimes relish these kleshas. Let's not call it afflictions now. Sometimes we relish the kleshas. Suppose I adore you, compliment you, praise you, extol you, and put you in high esteem. Are you not delighted? You are happy. Now actually what is the fact is that this has, my praise to you or eulogy, compliments, etc. are nothing but swelling your ego. Your ego gets swollen. And we enjoy it. When the ego gets swollen in particular way, we enjoy it. Everyone says you are a wonderful person, you are a very wise person, you are a very intelligent person, you are a noble person. It is actually adding flesh to our I-ness, our ego. And that's why you say it was nourishment to my ego. Your compliments nourished my ego. Now ego is not necessarily whole and soul good. The pleasures that we are getting in the world, we are enjoying. But then Patanjali later says, Sukhanushay ragaha. Every one of us want pleasures, more and more pleasures, more and more of pleasures, but the result of it is that you develop attachment. Now attachment can be analyzed, that there is a problem in attachment. Attachment can go overboard. More and more of pleasures is a good thing, but more and more of attachment can be a problem, which we can imagine. Is that right? So the word kleshas must be retained as kleshas. Let us not render it as afflictions. Because kleshas also give us pleasure. Now my I-ness is a pleasure for me. Self-esteem. Now self-esteem is nothing but swollen ego. Because that is prakriti, that is matter, that is sattva raja tama gunas. And the more your ego is nourished, we tend to become rajasic and not sattvic. Never sattvic. If I praise you more and more, if I compliment you more and more, then in guna analysis we become rajasic and not sattvic. And rajoguna is not definitely desirable. Rajasastu phalam dukkham, Bhagavad Gita. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. The fruition of rajoguna, result and consequence of rajoguna is sorrow. Now sorrow is unwelcoming. The sorrow is unwelcoming. So their kleshas must be retained as kleshas. Now the kleshas are being mentioned here. Now let me give you some kind of a practical insight and understanding about this. So many times, now all of you are in a wonderful, hopefully in a wonderful state of mind. Is that right? At least in a good state of mind. Except a few exceptions might be there. They might be having some agitation problem, etc. But generally, you are now quiet. You are hopefully quiet, or you should be quiet. You should be serene, or you are serene. Or during your yoga, after your yoga, you feel wonderfully fine. Is that right? Now, if you feel that you are, after yoga, because of yoga, you got a good state of mind, we are not countering kleshas. We are not countering kleshas. If you feel wonderful condition, ethereal condition, seventh heaven condition, yet it is not attenuating kleshas. We don't attenuate kleshas by what we do. A very good successful asana session, a very good successful pranayam session, a very good successful worship session, a wonderful meditation dhyana session. It doesn't attenuate kleshas. When are the kleshas attenuated? Then why? How the kleshas are attenuated? By what kleshas are attenuated? Your halasana, Janushirshasana, Viprit Karni doesn't attenuate. Going to shrine, going to temple doesn't attenuate. What is it that attenuates kleshas? So last time I told you about who is Kriya Yogi. Now one more aspect I want to introduce here. The kleshas are attenuated only by what is called as Shat Sampatti in Adhyatma. Now we are all infested by Shat Ripus. We are all infested by Shat Ripus. What are Shat Ripus? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Kama, lust, passion, desire. Krodha, anger, exasperation, irksomeness. Lobha, avarice, greed. Moha, infatuation, delusion. Mada, pride, self-conceit, arrogance. And Matsarya, envy, jealousy, malice. So our psyches are infested by Shad Ripus. Ripu means enemy, our foe. These are our foes. And that's why we have problem in our worldly life. Out of proportion, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. So then when they grow out of proportion, they create problems. So we are infested by Shad Ripus. Now by our practice of yoga, year after year after year, decade after decade after decade, still we don't overcome these Shad Ripus. Last time I told you, it's like dog's tail. As long as you are in yoga, your tail is kept straight. Once your yoga is over, slowly it again curls. Dog's tail. So our mind is like dog's tail. It can be made straight. It becomes straight by going to shrine, going to temple, going to sublime place, meeting a saint, meeting a sage, doing yoga, practicing yoga. But again we are back to square one. Again we are the same. Day in and day after year, might be doing yoga. Yet very little change takes place. And that change is again in the proportion of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada. Maybe little less. Maybe 5% depreciation in Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya. Maybe 8%, maybe 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 25%. We do change, not that we don't change. But we only change with regards to repose, the subjective force, maybe little waning of repose. So maybe a change will take place. Yes, I don't get as angry as we used to get. I don't have lust as much as I had. Now I don't have the pride and arrogance as much as I had. But still we have it. A little waning will take place by what we do. The Kriya Yogi is personification of Shat Sampattis. These are contraries to repose. These are counterposition to repose. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. What is it counterposition of it? They are called Shat Sampatti. Sampatti means glory. The former one is a Ripu, is a enemy, is a foe, is an alien. And the later one is a glory. So we have our foes within us, formidable foes within us. But a yogi has Shat Sampattis. What are Shat Sampattis? Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Jnana, Vairagya. These are Shat Sampattis. The yogi is infested with these. So our means of yoga is not just doing asana, pranayam, meditation, going to temple. Our means of yoga are in acquiring Shat Sampattis. These Shat Sampattis are attained by what? These are attained by Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha, Satvik, Ahar, Vihar, Achar, Vichar. Now if you want to understand these with details and with more profundity, you look into the book Discourses on Yoga, where I have mentioned this Ashtanga Yoga, the big book. Every Yama Niyama, I have mentioned what is the practice for Yama Niyama. For Yama Niyama, we don't prescribe Shirshasana for Yama, Ahimsa, Shirshasana, Satya, Sarvangasana, Halasana, Asteya. It doesn't work like that, is that right? Or Nadishodhan Pranayam for this, or Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaspa. We don't mention asanas for 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. Is that right? Then what has to be done for yama niyamas? That is called Satsanga, Sangatraya. Satsanga, Shastra Sangha, Sadhana Sangha. These are 3 mentioned in Adhyatma. Then Satvik Ahar, Vihar, Achar, Vichar. Satvik Ahar. All Ahar means intakes. All your intakes. Intakes by all the 5 gates, 5 senses. Not just food at dining table. Ahara is a wider concept here. Satvik Ahar means what you eat by mouth. ingestion should be sattvic. What you see, which is food for your eyes and intelligence, should be sattvic. What you hear, which is food for ears and your intelligence, should be sattvic. All intakes of all the senses, intakes of mind, intakes of intelligence, intakes to ego, they should be all sattvic. That is sattvic ahar. Sattvic vichar, thoughts. All thoughts should be sattvic. All vihara, all movements, business of life, activity of life, movements in life should be all movements. Your movements in life should be sattvic. Ahar, vihar, achar, conduct. All conduct should be sattvic. Then in Bhagavad Gita, these principles are further broadened out. Yajna, dana, tapas. Pavanani manishidaha, Bhagavad Gita. These three purify mankind. What is it? Principle of yajna to be practiced. It is principle of yajna. It is not that every day you should lit a fire and go on making offerings in the altar. Yajna is a concept. So yajna, dana, to be gifting, to be giving out, giving away. Tapas, austerities, they purify mankind. So yajna, dana, tapas, sattvic, ahar, vihar, achar, vichar, satsanga, sadhana sanga, shastra sanga. These actually help you collect shama, dama, titiksha, uparate, jnana, vairagya, shanti, samadhan. Not Shirshasana, Sarvangasana, Pranayam, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, that you might meditate and you say, I also meditate every day. You are going to come to back to square one, little waning perhaps in your bad qualities. So you will be less bad, you won't become good. You will become less bad, not good. Good is a different thing to be just less bad. Therefore, understand wider scheme of yoga. So again I reiterate, yajna, dana, tapas, sattvic, ahar, vihar, achar, vichar, satsanga, sadhana sanga, shastra sanga. Now we have to understand what are these. So for you to understand this, I won't delineate on it now. Look into the book, Discourses on Yoga. That explains what each of these is. How to go about, what should we do. So if you want to do yoga sadhana, don't just come to the institute and get onto the mat. You'll have to do so many other things. This is one of those things. The yajna, dana, tapas. So somewhere it will come in, some aspect of yajna will be there. Unless you sacrifice and come to yoga institute and do, there is a sacrifice when you come here. You have to give up something to come here. So there is yajna. Then there is tapas, there is austerity. Then there is sadhana aspect, which I have explained. Sthula sharir sadhana, sukshma sharir sadhana, karana sharir sadhana. So sadhanas are described in Adhyatma. It's a different scheme. We are three bodies: gross, subtle and causal. The body that we are three bodies. So there are, each one of them have different sadhanas. Something to do for sthula sharir, gross body. Something needs to be done for sukshma sharir. Something needs to be done for karana sharir. So this is also explained in Discourses on Yoga. So you can look into that book and get to know the details about. They will really help you. That is a measure taken against kleshas. What you and me do under our yoga is not really taking measures against kleshas. We need to do something much more than that. We need to inculcate some habits. We have to inculcate, we have to embrace certain culture. That is by those factors. Then that will help you collect Shat Sampattis, and when you have Shat Sampattis, that is a measure taken against Klesha, and your Asana Pranayama will get included. It will be upgraded. It will be upgraded because of your culture of consciousness, because of culture of your mind. So the culture of the mind evolves by those aspects. Sattva Rajatama constitution will change because of those aspects. Our Sattva Guna increasing by Halasana and Vipritkarni is for a short while, temporary means. Now if you take recourse to temporary means, you can't be getting long-lasting results. So we need to understand what are temporary means. I am not looking down upon the quietude that you get in Halasana and Vipritkarni and Pranayam, but that's a short-term measure. We need to take short-term measures as well, which are emergency measures. They come handy. Short-term measures are also, they have their virtue. They come as emergency means. But then we also have to consider long-term means. Long-term means are a culture of yoga, which again, these things which I told you, Ahar, Vihar, Achar, Vichar, Yajna, Dana, Tapas, Satsanga, Sadhana, Sangha, Shastra, Sangha. So, try to give importance to these factors. If you really want to be going towards essential yoga, quintessential yoga, classical yoga, just putting on shorts and t-shirts and doing some mat work is not sufficient. Again I reiterate, I am not belittling it. It is part of it. It's only part of what you should be doing. We need to do much more than that. So, Shat Sampattis are anti-kleshotics. Are we getting injected with anti-kleshotics? Like when there is an infection, you want to inject antibiotics. For anti-kleshotics, you have to take injections of Shat Sampattis. They should get into your system. Because when you inject something, it gets into the system. So that is Kriya Yoga. They are antagonizers of klesha. They will attenuate kleshas. They will mitigate kleshas. Now what are these kleshas? Now we will commence on this. Now these kleshas are 5 in one sense. But 5 things, there are 2 classes of, when we say something 5. Mat, a boulder, glass of water, golden bangle, silver vessel. These are 5 things. Is that right? They are not mutually related to each other. If they are related, they are very, 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 very remotely related. Otherwise they are not related. But my 5 limbs, my 5 cognitive organs, my 5 cognitive organs, they are mine. They are, understand the substrate. Substrate of Jnanendriyas 5, Karmendriyas 5, Vrittis 5, there is one class. But there are 5 things: brick, bolster, belt, rope, floor. These are 5 different things. So these kleshas are Pancha Parva. Because just now you heard, they are all Viparyayas. All the 5 kleshas are Viparyayas. So they are of one class. Therefore they are called Pancha Parva kleshas. Vrittis are not Pancha Parva vrittis, they are Pancha vrittis. Pancha Jnanendriyas are Pancha Jnanendriyas. They are not Pancha Parva Jnanendriyas. Karmendriyas are not Pancha Parva Karmendriyas. They are Pancha Karmendriyas. Pancha Jnanendriyas. 5 things, mutually not related. They are also 5. Indriyas, vrittis are also 5. Kleshas are also 5. When it comes to Jnanendriya, Karmendriya, they are my Jnanendriya, my Karmendriyas. So that is a substrate. I can't keep my eyes somewhere there, ears somewhere there, and the nostril somewhere there, tongue somewhere here, my 5 senses. No. They must be integrally with me. Is that right? Now these kleshas in another class of 5. They are 5, no doubt. But understand the class of 5. There are 5 phases. They are all avidya only. This is what you will come to know. Avidya more and more of avidya, more and more and more of avidya, more and more and more and more of avidya, are avidya, aspita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Pancha parva kleshas according to Sankhya treatise. And here also Vyasa has clarified that they are all viparyayas. Now these are not psychological viparyayas, they are metapsychological viparyayas. These viparyayas, precisely we can say they are perversions. What's the difference between illusion and perversion? Big difference, is that right? Between illusion and perversions. So these are perversions. It's not mistaking. You mistake nacre to silver. You mistake rope to snake. But it is not like this. These are perversions. Which sutra will characterize that aspect? That's why I call these avidya as not nescience. I call it perverse science. This is my term. You won't get in a dictionary. Perverse science. Pervert science. Not nescience. Nescience is not to know. Nescience is not to know. Ignorant. So it is not because of ignorance that we have kleshas. Because later you will be told, vidusho apihi. Even the wisest of the wise also has kleshas. It is not ignorance, it is perverse science. You know what is perversion? Avidya is a perversion. Asmita is a perversion, not mistaking. Raga is a perversion, not mistaking. Dvesha is a perversion, not mistaking. Abhinivesha is a perversion, not mistaking. The sutra will make that clear. Okay? So these are all avidya, pancha parva kleshas. So when you say there are 5 kleshas, understand it's a different kind of 5. There can so many 5. I have a house, I have a car, I have a smartphone, I have a computer. These are my 5 things. These 5 things can be fragmented. One of those can be lost. Yet I remain. Yet I remain. So these 5 vrittis, 5 kleshas, 5 yamas, 5 niyamas, every time try to understand what kind of 5. What kind of 5 everywhere. So here understand what kind of 5. It is pancha parva kleshas. And these are guna vyapara dardadrayanti is one meaning. Another meaning, if you just now heard, kleshas mutually interact in each other. They are of same class, therefore they interact. The 5 things like gold, silver, metal, stone, they don't interact. There are 5 different things. So these guna vyapara gets aggrandized, which is again a problem. Interaction of the kleshas, they start mutually complementing each other, again creates a problem. So the kleshas are out of gunas. Gunas are further cause of the kleshas, because they are something of the metaphysics. Sattva-raja-tama constitute klesha. Sattva-raja-tama constitute our mind psyche. Sattva-raja-tama constitute our body. Sattva-raja-tama constitute our pains and pleasures. Sattva-raja-tama constitute entire our manifestation. That's why they are material cause. So Sattva-raja-tama, there are 2 phases to aspects of it. Bhogarthata, apavargarthata. They are good as well as not good. If they come in proper proportion, they are good. If they don't come in that proportion, they are not good. So that's how gunas are not altogether to be discarded, nor altogether to be embraced for evolving our life. We can't banish all the 3 gunas and then try to improve. We'll have to take recourse to sattva preponderance constitution of gunas, not rajatama prepondering constitution. But we can't do away with gunas. So with gunas we will improve. With gunas we will evolve up to a stage which is quite a vital stage, important stage in our evolvement. So basically, understand the point. Kleshas are countered by Shat Sampattis. This is what lesson we have to take here. So let's try to increase our Shat Sampattis. What is that? Shama, mental culturing restraint. Dhamma is sensory restraint and culturing. Titiksha, tolerance for one's own destiny. Whatever might happen in our life, we should not be tormented. Even if there are untoward things are happening, we get tormented about it. Is that right? Titiksha is to have tolerance for whatever untoward happens because of your own destiny. We consider only tolerant, interpersonal. I will tolerate him, he will tolerate me. I don't tolerate him, he doesn't tolerate me. But intrapersonal tolerance we don't have. We have interpersonal tolerance concept, not intrapersonal. This is intrapersonal tolerance. Whatever my fate, whatever happens to me, whatever I have or I don't have, to be tolerating that. Titiksha. Uparati. Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha. Uparati is enoughness, satiety. Enough of this experience, enough of this world, enough of this materialism, enough of these materialistic pleasures. That sense of enough is enough, should come in the spiritual realm. Usually we get disgusted and we say enough is enough. But getting wisdom and then say enough is enough, that is uparati. Do you understand the difference? Getting wisdom and therefore say enough is enough. Usually enough is enough because of disgust. I am disgusted with you, disgusted with this, that is enough. No, enough is enough. That's not mentioned here. Shanti Samadhana, subjective peace, contentment is a sampatti. Look at any saint. You will never come across a saint who is not contented or in utter discontent, like it happens to us more often. More often we are in utter discontent and it's an agitation, it's a volcano within us. But a saint doesn't have it. Shanti, peace, samadhan, contentment. So let's try to earn peace. Let's try to earn contentment, be contented as far as possible, be peaceful as far as possible is an attempt in acquiring sampatti. This is Shat Sampatti Sadhana. We have to identify that and adhere to it.
Yeah. So we've seen the 3rd sutra, we have seen Vyasa's Bhashya. Before moving on to the 4th sutra, there's some interesting things that we need to cover, which is not covered much elsewhere. So let's try to understand this properly. Okay. So we've seen that the kleshas are nothing but viparyaya. That is what Vyasa said. Vyasa said, klesha iti pancha viparyayaha. What is viparyaya was covered in the 1st chapter in the context of chitta vrittis. Viparyaya was one of the chitta vrittis. And just as to recall, viparyayo mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtam, which means viparyaya is mithya jnanam, that it is knowledge that is not true, does not reflect reality. Atadrupa pratishtam, which brings about an understanding which is contrary to the real nature. Okay, atadrupa pratishtam, that is viparyaya. And here it is said, these kleshas...
That is seeing the things not as they are. Usually we see the things as they appear. But viparya means the thing perceived as they are not. Snake. Rope is not a snake. We perceive snake in rope. There is no snake in rope. That's why it is viparya. Atadrup. Tadrup is rope is rope. Tadrup jnana. Atadrup jnana, rope not rope, but something else. That is viparya. Atadrupa jnanam.
So here it is said these kleshas are pancha viparya. Now the question may arise, as is seen in sort of the textbooks of academic textbooks, mathematics and physics and so on. It will say the diligent reader might wonder, right? So somebody who is carefully learning might wonder. So the question might arise that in the first chapter, when the pramana vritti was discussed, the first one, Patanjali said pratyaksha anumana agama pramanani. So pramana is pratyaksha anumana agama. Then why not in the context of viparyaya vritti over there, why didn't he say avidya asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha pancha viparyayaha? Because he could have said it is in the same vein, right? And why was this not covered in the first chapter when viparyaya was discussed anyway? Right? So that is an interesting and a good question, which has been discussed again in commentaries and other texts. So now let us try to understand that. So first let's see how was viparyaya explained. So firstly the meaning of mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtam. Then examples were given. One example was sadvishaye ekachandra darshanena dvichandra darshanam badhyate. Okay, so the first thing that was said in the context of viparyaya was viparyaha pramanena badhyate. So viparyaya is that vritti, that cognition imprint, cognitive imprint on the mind, which is removed by pramana. Because pramana is true knowledge, accurate information. The moment you get accurate information, so the moment in his example, the moment you see that it is a rope, the wrong understanding that it is a snake goes away. That gets removed, that gets overcome. Right? So that was the example given there. Another example was sometimes you might see two moons, but the moment it's clearer, your vision is clearer, you say it's okay, right, it's one moon. The seeing of two moons go away, right? So yat pramanena badhyate saha viparyayaha. So that was the explanation given there. So now why was the fivefold viparyaya, as is being explained here for kleshas, why was not that done in the context of vrittis? So kleshanam avrittitvat. Okay, so the kleshas are not just vrittis. Okay. So in what sense? But they are still viparyaya. Okay? So in some sense it is slightly confusing, and let us try to understand why. So nahi kleshaha pratyayamatraha pratyayamatrahi vrittayaha. Okay? So what is pratyaya? Pratyaya is a cognitive imprint on the chitta. Right? The chitta is an instrument. The instrument has, as we described, it is as though it takes a certain form and shape. That particular thing is what we consider knowledge, or the cognitive imprint. The understanding of the chitta happens by taking a certain form and shape. So that is pratyaya. Okay? So pratyaya is sort of the layer of understanding or cognitive impression that happens on the chitta, which for bodha, for understanding, the purusha gets involved, and through that reflection and influence, the understanding happens. This is, we have seen in the first chapter. So that particular state of the chitta is the pratyaya. Vrittis are all pratyayas. The pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti, all of them are pratyaya because they are a certain state, a certain shape and form of the chitta, which through the influence and reflection of the purusha leads to bodha or understanding. So that was paurushaya bodha. Now kleshas are not pratyaya matraha. Klesha is not merely pratyayas. Okay, it is not merely the state of the chitta in terms of the cognitive imprint. Vrittis are pratyaya matraha. Okay, the vritti, the definition, the classification is all about the state of the chitta in the classified as per the cognitive imprint on the chitta. Okay. So what are these kleshas? Kleshas tu chittasya malam yatha chakshustimiram. Okay, so the kleshas are actually impurities on the chitta. Okay, and the example is given just like there might be a cataract in the eye, which is an impurity, which leads to a certain vision, like a certain seeing. The seeing of the eye distorted due to the cataract, that is the pratyaya, and that is the vritti aspect. But the cataract itself, the mala, that is the klesha. Okay? So the kleshas tu malam, chittasya malam, yata chakshus timiram. Now, klesha mala viyoge chittasya viparyaya pratyaya bhavat. Okay, so how do you explain this? How do you know? I mean, whatever is being said, what is the sort of the reasoning? Because when the klesha mala viyoge, when the impurities of the form of kleshas go away, when we get rid of the kleshas, what happens? Chittasya viparyaya pratyaya bhavat. The viparyaya pratyaya, which means the viparyaya vritti, doesn't arise in the chitta once the impurities in the form of the klesha goes away. Again, it is similar to in that analogy. If the cataract of the eye is removed, the wrong vision that used to be there, the clouded vision that used to be there, is no longer there. That establishes that the clouded vision, which is a vritti, was because of the cataract, which is like the klesha. Okay, so the klesha is the chittasya malam, and now this gives us an understanding of the relation between the klesha and the vritti, and viparyaya and the klesha. And then when that happens, when the kleshas completely go away, there is absolutely no viparyaya pratyaya in the chitta. The chitta can still have smriti and pramana and all the other vrittis, right? But the viparyaya vritti does not happen in that particular case of a yogi whose kleshas have sort of been removed. Okay, so it says natu viparyayaha kshina kleshanam. So the kleshas have been destroyed, have gone away. For them there is no viparyaya. So the viparyaya vritti itself doesn't happen. So the pratyaya or the vritti. Okay, so these are again the words. Pratyaya is the cognitive imprint. Vritti is the state of the chitta. The viparyaya form of that does not happen to a yogi whose kleshas are kshina, whose kleshas have gone away. Okay. So now again the question. Tat punaha pratyaya vyatirekena pratipattum आख्यातुम च अशक्यम इति प्रत्ययेन एव आख्यायते विपर्ययो वृत्तिः इति. Okay, so what is happening here is, because without reference to pratyayas, without reference to the state of the chitta, okay, one is not able to characterize and define this particular concept called kleshas. And therefore this, and viparyaya, therefore the viparyaya has been defined in terms of pratyayas by including that in the vrittis, right? Because one may question that if klesha is dirt, if the dirt is removed, the viparyaya goes away. Why is viparyaya vritti? Okay, that again is explained because viparyaya is also of the nature of a pratyaya. It is about the state and the form of the chitta. Therefore, the definition of viparyaya was done with reference to vrittis, which means with reference to the state and the form of the chitta or the pratyayas, and the kleshas are now coming with reference to the mala or sort of the impurities, which because of which the viparyaya happens. So now if you remember, again in where the viparyaya was discussed in the context of vrittis, Vyasa had said chittamala prasangena abhidhaishyante. Okay, so in the context of chittamala, again this will be further clarified. Vyasa said that in the commentary of that particular sutra very early in the first chapter, where the viparyaya was discussed as a vritti. Okay, so now therefore we should have a clear understanding of what is vritti, what is the viparyaya vritti, what is the klesha, why klesha did not come in the first chapter, and what is the sort of the relation between the klesha and the viparyaya and the vrittis. Okay, so spandamanaha, right, which means by being, so what is that term? We saw that in the commentary also, which means when they get manifest, right, when the kleshas become manifest, when the kleshas get vritti labha, so they come become manifest in the form of a vritti, which means they create influence on the chitta, due to which the chitta takes a certain shape and form. And that shape and form of the instrument is the cognitive imprint that will go to the Purusha. Okay? So spandamanaha, when the kleshas become manifest, pratyaya dvarena udbhasamanaha, okay, through the gateway of becoming a pratyaya, they become manifest. Right? The impurities become manifest by becoming a pratyaya, by becoming a vritti. Na tesham chalanamasti. Okay, so without this happening, without they becoming a pratyaya, there is no activity of the kleshas, which means the kleshas manifest by becoming, sort of by coloring the pratyaya, and therefore by becoming a viparya vritti. Vastradi ragavat. Okay, so this is a nice analogy that says, like the coloring of a cloth, right? So the coloring of a cloth needs a reference to the cloth. There is no coloring of a cloth without talking about the cloth, right? Similarly, the kleshas, their activity is in terms of coloring that particular screen or the particular cloth of the chitta, which is getting presented to the Purusha, so to speak, right? And therefore, the aspect of viparyaya in the understanding of klesha has been done with reference to vrittis also and independently also as kleshas. And all of this is nothing but viparyaya. All of this comes in the realm of viparyaya. Okay? Hope I was able to sort of explain what is being said here. The other point to consider in the context of vrittis, if you remember, the very first sutra which introduced vritti said vrityayaha panchatayyaha klishta klishtaha. Okay. Which means there are five, the vrittis are fivefold. They can be klishta or aklishta. When we described it at that time as part of these sessions, we said klishta means problematic from a point of view of yoga, in the journey of yoga. Aklishta means not problematic, but rather helpful in the journey of yoga. Now that we are learning what are kleshas, okay, the klishta is a form of the same root klish, from which klesha also comes, klishta also comes. So now that we understand what are kleshas, we should go back and see how the fivefold vrittis can be klishta or aklishta. Right? So how they can generate klesha or remove the klesha or not generate klesha and so on, for a better understanding of the vrittis. Right? So now we have enough information to better appreciate the term klishta klishtaha. So we can use that information to go and revise how it applies in the context of each of the vrittis. Right? So that is the other point in this context.
So just now you heard the word pratyaya often. So little clarification on primary level, basic level, because every word has an enormous depth. Enormous depth. So for our hierarchy, at beginner's hierarchy and neophyte hierarchy, the viparyaya of the vritti is a pratyayatmaka pratyaya. It is experience. You experience illusion. All those illusions that you get on psychological plane, it's an experience. It cannot be bereft of experience that you get illusion, like nacre silver, snake and rope, whatever kind of, or two moons. It's an experience. But kleshas are not pratyatmaka. They don't give you experience. You can't experience your avidya. That means it is more subtler. That's why I said these are meta-psychological kleshas. Meta. They're so subtle that you cannot see that you have illusion, experience of avidya, experience of asmita. If you experience, then you can take a measure. If you don't experience, how can you take any measure there? If you experience sorrow, you will take measure against sorrow. If you don't experience sorrow at all, what measures are you going to take? And why will you take? Tell me. You won't take. So there's a very fundamental basic meaning to word pratyaya, which often you heard now. So it is like this. You perhaps will know that you are intelligent, or all others will say you are very intelligent, but can you show your intelligence? You can't pull out the chip from your brain and show this is my intelligence. Somebody says you are a very loving person. You don't know that you love, you have love. Others know that you love, you have love. However, you cannot pull it out from the heart and say, this is love. This is a chip of the love. Is that right? Because that is so subtle. And it cannot be experiencing. You can't experience the love that you have. You can't experience your own intelligence. You will have experience because of the intelligence. But you won't experience your own intelligence. You won't experience your own love. You can experience outcome of love, manifestation of love, effect of love. You can experience the effects of it, manifestations of it. But you can't pull out and say, this is my love, let me feel how my love is. Let me feel here how it is. It's not possible. Similarly, kleshas are very much there. You can't feel them. You will feel because of kleshas, you won't feel the kleshas itself. Because they are so subtle. You have your eyes, you can see through the eyes. But then if you want to see your eyes, because they are gross, you can stand in front of the mirror and you will see your eyes. If they were subtle, you can't see your mind in a mirror, is that right? You can see your eyes in a mirror, your nose you can see in a mirror, ears you can see in the mirror. Because they are gross. You can't see your hearing. You can't see your seeing. Eyes can be seen, you can't see your seeing. Because why? It is subtle. It is subtle, so much so that even a microscope cannot catch it. Electron microscope cannot catch it. It is not just subtle in the sense physically having a dimension of subtlety. It is subtle by nature. It cannot be seen. So kleshas are very much there, but you won't have experience of kleshas. You will only feel experience of manifestation of kleshas. And that's why we can identify klesha vritti. Patanjali will say we should take measures against klesha vrittis and not straight away against the kleshas. Dhyana he yaha tadvrittayaha. Tadvrittayaha, klesha vrittayaha. The klesha vrittis can be managed by us. So vrittis are not subtle, nominal, they are phenomenal. But kleshas are nominal, they are not phenomenal. Klesha vritti is phenomenal. Klesha vritti, because of klesha, will have attachment, aversion, pride, arrogance, etc., etc. Fear, etc. That's the manifestation of vritti. Klesha vritti. So there is something called as klesha vritti that is to be managed, that can be managed. That is what we do in our yoga. We are trying to manage, handle klesha vrittis, which are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. But not kleshas directly, because they are not seeable. It's like your intelligence cannot be shown. It can be shown that you are intelligent. It can be proved that you are intelligent. Everyone will be convinced that you are intelligent, but you can't show your intelligence as an object. It is so integral to you, and then moreover it is subtle. So all these emotions, love, fear can be seen. You say, I see fear. No, you don't see fear. You see manifestation of fear. You see the effect of fear. So not to confuse between manifestation of something and that itself. Fear cannot be seen. Manifestation of effect of fear can be seen. Similarly about the kleshas, they are not pratyayas. You can't see kleshas. If you can see, you can manage. Yes, here is avidya, let me squeeze it, let me tear it and throw it away, burn it. You can't see it. No measure can be taken. So they are not pratyayas. They give pratyayas. Viparya of the vritti is experience. You experience viparya, therefore you take measure. Oh, there's a snake, there is a snake. And then you put on the lights. You take a measure, you take a torch. Oh no, that's a rope. You can take a torch light and you say, no, that's a rope. You can take measure against illusion. You can't take measure against this viparyaya in that way. Do you follow? The measures are what? Shat sampatti. That's why pratyayas are not there. You don't experience kleshas. Kleshas are there to give you experience. Kleshas are there to give you experience. You can't experience your kleshas. If you experience, you can manage. You can take measures. So that's how the viparya class here is totally different. Do you follow? You can't take measures against, like putting on a light, have more illumination, washing the eyes, rubbing the eyes. I know now two moons have become one. There are some defect in my eyes, so I rub my eyes. Now I see two as one, and therefore that's the illusion gone. If the illusion is gone, it can come back again. You can have not just snake and rope illusion once in life, umpteen number of times. You get illusion and disillusionment. Again you get illusion, again you get disillusionment. Illusion is not removed once and for all. It can reappear. This once removed will never reappear. This illusion once removed will never reappear. Okay? That's the difference between this viparyaya and that viparyaya. Because of pratyaya, pratyatmakata. And this is the very gross meaning. It's not precise meaning. For you to understand that you can experience illusion of vritti, you can't experience illusion of kleshas.
Okay. So we'll stop here. We'll recite the slokas on Guruji. वैज्ञानिक शिक्षकत्वे
वैज्ञानिक शिक्षकत्वे
कलाकार आसनेषु यः
कलाकार आसनेषु यः
योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञः
योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञः
तं वन्दे सुन्दरं गुरुं
तं वन्दे सुन्दरं गुरुं
योगवृक्षो लोकेऽस्मिन्
योगवृक्षो लोकेऽस्मिन्
वर्धितो यस्य प्रेरणया
वर्धितो यस्य प्रेरणया
योगाचार्याय गुरवे
योगाचार्याय गुरवे
सुन्दराय नमो नमः
सुन्दराय नमो नमः.
Okay, today we'll stop here, not take any questions.
Today we have some engagement.
Yeah.
No questions today.
Thank you.